Always nice to say the wrong sport when you're doing the old hook thing. NHL hidden gems for you guys right now. You can see here, I got the C on my hat. I know that Suterin from Russia, so you can understand, thought that this was a Cleveland hat, but it is a Calgary Cannons hat, cofdead403.ca for great Calgary swag. So, gotta rep Calgary with the first hidden gem here. I have Conor Zary as my first hidden gem. He just signed a contract extension with the Flames. Good. I think that contract makes a whole lot of sense for all of the sides involved. I think that is a great bit of work and makes a whole lot of sense for Zary and for the Flames. I cannot express how much better the eye test of this kid looked compared to what the numbers were a season ago. He has taken substantial steps forward, I think 2 years in a row, for the Flames. Injuries got in the way last year, but the way he was confidently creating, he was kind of the guy in control out on the ice. And I will be honest, I didn't know if he would ever get to that level. I thought he'd be a good offensive player for the Flames, but I think there is a really, really, really dynamic hockey player in there. It's going to be a question in Calgary about whether he works down the middle or if you move him to the wing. I don't think he is all of a sudden the answer to the Flames' prayers of needing a number one center or needing a real legitimate game breaker. But I think he is going to be one heck of a Robin to the Batman of whoever, if it's Gavin McKenna or one of the 85 number one centers that are apparently in this year's hockey draft. I think this guy could legitimately be a pretty consistent number one as the years go on. Top line player, anyway. I think there is legitimately that there. And I think, honestly, if the Panthers or Stars or whoever were to trade for this kid tomorrow, I think he becomes, superstar level. Maybe not necessarily in, 100 points every season and all of that, but comes up with big plays in big games. I think the only thing that is keeping people from talking about him are absurd stats, and he just wasn't able to execute that while staying healthy a season ago. And big opportunities. And you're not going to get that in Calgary on big spotlights anyway for now. But I think he's a guy that really has a chance to take a step forward. I think this one, and I guess a few of these, hidden gems, can mean different things to different people, right? And so this next one is one who has stepped up in some big moments before, but I think could again. And it is Teuvo Teräväinen from the Chicago Blackhawks. It's a bad situation in Chicago, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. It's a rough go with the Chicago team at this particular moment. But I still think the skill set that Teräväinen has, and I don't know if he's ever going to fully get to the level that I thought he might after his first few years in the NHL. It kind of leveled off a little bit quicker than I thought it would for him. But I still think that there are enough things that he does really effectively all over the ice at the NHL level that if a contending team were to trade for him, I think he all of a sudden becomes fan favorite and becomes a really, really important part of that team. And you look at some of the guys that the Panthers have been able to get the most out of over the last little while, the Forslings, the Sam Bennetts, the Carter Verhaeghes, and those guys. I don't know if Teräväinen's turning into a 50-goal scorer, but I do think that if you put him in the right situation again, that there is a guy who could really jump up a level or two and significantly outplay whatever you would have to give up to get this guy. So I think that when we are looking at moves that the Panthers have made that have made them successful, I think Teräväinen kind of fits the style of that very effectively when you are looking at where these would have the greatest impact, and that is in the postseason. We have 3 more to go, and 3-1, I guess technically 4 players, but 3 more kind of slots to go. And kind of different meanings to all of this as we go along. But first, want to ask if you could follow me on social media. Couch Potato Diary always has stuff changing around here, so make sure you're following me on social media, where I'm now realizing I forgot to tweet out that we're going live today. But you can follow me on social media at Primetime Klein on X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. Up next, these guys are hidden gems in that they just haven't had the opportunity, I don't think, to really break through yet. And I think it's coming. It is Lawson, Crouse, and Dylan Guenther with the Utah Mammoth. Almost called them Jazz there. I don't think I'm going to have a tough time not saying hockey club with them. I think that one's going to go away pretty quick. Mammoth is going to take some time to set in for me. I think I'm probably going to stumble on Jazz more than I am on Hockey Club. But back to the original point with Guenther and with Crouse. I think there's a few guys on Utah that are going to really level up this year. But I think one of the things you're going to hear from the season preview as we go along is the optimism I have around what Utah is building in their second year out in Salt Lake City. I think that they have really put together a very, very strong foundation, and they're going to give teams a lot of problems this year. And so I think with that, when they start to play meaningful games again, my dog agrees, Lawson Crouse has that dog in him. Dylan Guenther, I think, like, when he went down with an injury last year, it set this team back. I don't think there was any question about it, that it set this team back, and they just weren't able to cross that finish line. But I think when we see these guys in big games, whether it is in February and March or April, May, I don't think it's going to get to May, but when they get into big games, you are going to see these guys, I think, kind of break out in a big time way. So maybe this isn't necessarily along the same lines of Conor Zary, where it's, oh, well, maybe there's potential, or Teuvo Teräväinen, where he's done it before, he's just on a bad team. It's just these guys are right on the cusp and have actually been pretty solid for a couple of years now, but now they have a chance to level up one more time and help get their team into some very competitive hockey games in the 2025 season. So that's why I have them as a couple of gems here. My next one. This one, I fully understand. I am stretching the hidden aspect of it. But follow me on the journey in discussing my next hidden gem, Nikolaj Ehlers. Now, I know it is tough to have a hidden gem be the guy who was the #1 free agent available for like 3 weeks in the NHL offseason. That's tough to hide in that way. It's like me trying to hide in Japan. I'm a foot taller than a lot of the people there, and this whole thing stands out. Nikolaj Ehlers was standing out, and a lot of people were kind of singing his praises as a player in the NHL. The reason I think he still qualifies as a hidden gem is, while he had some big moments with the Winnipeg Jets, no doubt, I feel like because of the presence of Connor and Scheifele and trying to give opportunities to a few other young players like a Perfetti and all of that, I don't think we got to see the most that Nikolaj Ehlers has to offer. And so, like, I think there could be a stepping forward for him in a similar way to a Mikko Rantanen now being the #1 guy with Dallas. I think Ehlers has an opportunity to bust through in a gigantic, major way with Carolina. And like, I think the ceiling, I don't know how realistic this is, but I think the ceiling for this guy is at least being mentioned when I'm running through the top 10 players next year. Like, I think he has that level of skill that if it's all put together for a season, he can do that. I don't know if we're consistently talking about that, but he has it in him that once or twice in his career, he can pop into that. And I think now he is in a great spot in Carolina to really be able to shine as the offensive guy. And so I think we are going to look at him in a similar way to some of the guys that the Panthers have brought in as, oh, this is a guy who changes the dynamic and has found another level to his career now with the Carolina Hurricanes. So I look at him in a big way. The last one is Kirill Marchenko with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It feels weird to talk about a hidden gem who scored 31 goals a season ago, but when you talk about Columbus, he doesn't come up a whole lot. And like, Werenski takes up a lot of the ink about Columbus, and rightfully so. That is one of the best players in the National Hockey League right now. I don't think there's a question. So there's a lot of that. Obviously, there were some heartbreaking headlines in Columbus a season ago, and then a lot of like development from a lot of kind of more heralded talent. Marchenko is someone who I don't think enough people are talking about. Like, 31 goals and still found a way to kind of fly under the radar a little bit. If the Blue Jackets are able to have another kind of surprise season and push toward contention, I think you will see more people realizing that there is a dude in there with Kirill Marchenko, and a lot to get excited about with his talents. And kind of similarly, if it starts to go sideways the way I think people expect it to at some point in Columbus, and maybe he doesn't fit in plans or whatever, I would be surprised by this one. But if he gets moved to a legitimate contender, then I think he gets a lot of buzz as like apologies, sir, I did not recognize your game. Because I think he could have that level of an impact on some high caliber hockey teams going forward. So those are my 5 hidden gems from the NHL that could make an impact in the same way the Florida Panthers have been able to get guys who have made impacts at winning times the last couple of years. Again, my 5, Conor Zary from the Flames, Teuvo Teräväinen of the Blackhawks, a tie with Lawson, Crouse, and Guenther with Utah, Nikolaj Ehlers now with Carolina, and Kirill Marchenko with Columbus. So those are the 5 guys who I think could be hidden gems in the National Hockey League this upcoming season.